I know before I've had a few falls, I've got dirt all on.
I was one of those students who had good grades and good test scores, but couldn't afford college. So while I was thinking about what I would do after high school, a series of random and unexpected acts of kindness landed me at Westchester University. I hadn't even heard of the college, so it was a surprise to many that I would become its student government president. Just as many years later, it would surprise many that I would become a councilwoman for the city of Harrisburg. Looking back, it really wasn't that unexpected. I was raised by a father who believed anyone could accomplish anything, and a mother who had an incredibly strong work ethic. I was also born and raised in Venezuela, which is a very politicized culture, so that I understood from a very young age that my ability to afford foods and goods was directly impacted by the people who held office. The culture is so politicized that I knew my political affiliation before I could fully spell my name. I now live in a state that many consider to be inhospitable to immigrants. But having been raised by my particular set of parents in that particular culture meant that I learned to be a very determined person. And that determination has often baffled the people who think they know better, specifically political experts. To them, I was an attorney who had sued employers for employment violations, which meant that the people who support me would be poor and the people who wouldn't would be rich. I had also forced governments to follow the law even when it was controversial to do so. So to political experts, my life experience and my life's purpose was like a political liability. But for me, running for office was just another opportunity to carry out my life's purpose, right? That purpose was to help reduce poverty. And I've always believed that addressing inequities against women and immigrants was one of the ways to reduce that poverty. So when I was thinking about whether I should run for city council, I simply asked myself, why not, and whether I was willing to do the work. For me, running for office was just another opportunity to create awareness around the issues I cared about. So when I was thinking about my campaign, I looked at what I had to work with instead of what was missing. I knew that there wouldn't be a lot of money coming into my campaign, but I also had many great colleagues with great skills that could be contributed to the campaign. And most importantly, colleagues who had great confidence in the work that I did. Being a woman would typically be a liability, but there's so few women who run for office that I knew that as long as my values kind of matched the values of Harrisburg residents, there would be a group of people who would be happy to vote for a female candidate. And in this instance, being an immigrant was actually an asset because it meant that neither me nor my family were involved in the corruption that had devastated the city. So once I assessed what I had going for me, I realized I could run a successful campaign in spite of what the experts said. And actually, I ended up being the highest vote getter during that election cycle. Thank you. I also live in Pennsylvania, which is a harsh state for immigrants, for female candidates on a very good day. But because I'm an immigrant, I understood from an early age that carrying out your life's purpose, sometimes the opportunities that you think would be there may not actually be there. So instead, I've learned to carry out my life's purpose within the opportunities that do come up. So for me, there would really be no losing. I ran the campaign in a way to make sure that I would be advancing my life's purpose, so that whether I won or lost, I would still be meeting my life's purpose. So for the political experts, they had a lot of experience on campaigns, but they hadn't lived my life, they didn't know my purpose, and they weren't intimately familiar with the resources I had to work with. I wasn't delusional about the campaign. I knew it would be tough and it would require a lot of work. I also knew that it was important enough that it warranted asking for help. So I'm now not only on city council, I'm city council's vice president because of both humility and resourcefulness. So I often joke that I am the world's least viable candidate. And by that, I just mean that I run for a purpose I understand, that I put a lot of work into my values, that I understand that the resources come in a number of manifestations that even the experts fail to recognize. And most importantly, that even though they do not speak loudly, that there are a lot of people who share my values and will support them if given the opportunity to do so. So as all of us decide what our life purpose is and how we want to pursue it, I see that we fundamentally have two challenges. The first is to believe from the outset that we can, and the second is to decide whether we want to. Thank you.